Don, baby, we are back.
Oh my gosh, season 2 started off with a bang. It was such an excellent conversation with Jennifer Gordon.
I'm inspired. Are you inspired?
I'm very inspired. Her story is fantastic. It's definitely got a lot of ups and downs to it. She's a dancer. She's a choreographer. She's a teacher. She's a producer.
She's a warrior.
She's a warrior, Sam. And I want to make sure each and every one of you listen to every single moment of this interview because you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, get ready for part 2 because we've only scratched the surface.
For sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, Jennifer Gordon. How was your holiday season?
That's pretty good. I can't lie. It was pretty good. Got to spend some time with family and stuff. How about you?
It was good. It was really good, man. Yeah, tons of time with family. Got my. I told my wife I just want comic books and books. So I have so much reading ahead of me. I'm such a nerd, and I'm very excited.
I got Lego.
You got Legos, boy.
I got the Museum of Natural History Lego, and it's.
Is it like the whole building?
It's like 3 floors of Lego building. I haven't even started.
Is it? Can you see any of the rooms inside?
Yeah. They have it comes with a Brontosaurus and it has like a little astronomy room.
Whoa.
And, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Some of the Legos nowadays.
I know.
I want the Coliseum. I want all of it. Yeah. And how about your holiday season? Ladies and gentlemen,
Jennifer Gordon is joining us.
Hey.
Back. I once interviewed her on The Pillars of Hamilton.
I know. I've listened to that episode.
You heard it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. You're famous.
Oh.
So how was your holiday season, Jennifer Gordon?
It was beautifully quiet. 2024 was quite the chaotic year, so it was really nice to just sit back, relax, not go anywhere, not visit family. I love my family, but it was nice to stay home for a minute.
Oh, I hear you. Why was it such a chaotic year, if you don't mind me asking?
Lots of health issues. I lost my father in July. There was so much upheaval and so much work. Blessed with work this year, but it was definitely time to slow down for a minute.
Yeah, I lost my father a year before you lost your father, and
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry as well. It's one of them things, life. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have a much better 2025.
Thank you.
Are you guys optimistic?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don's not saying anything.
I'm working on it.
All right.
Yeah. Good things will come out of 2025. I'm certain.
So before we actually dig into it, I got to say, Jennifer Gordon, that I mentioned you to an employee of mine who also had listened to your podcast because it had been a while. I was a little hazy on the details. And she remembered so much of it. And as she was bringing it back to me, I was just like, oh, my God, that's right. Oh, my God, this is going to be awesome. Jennifer Gordon rocks.
Yeah. So, like I first met you, I think, 2018. It was the Creative Capital Program.
Yes.
And so I know it was pre-COVID. So I'm assuming probably around 2018.
I think that was when.
Yeah. So, I thought it was really interesting. So the Creative Capital Program is really cool. So they get artists together from different disciplines, and they sort of teach them a little bit about the business of being an artist, and gives you access to grant opportunities and networking opportunities too. So it just so happened that Jen was in my group. And we knew a lot of the same people because, theater and dance kind of mix a little bit there.
How long ago was this?
2018.
Okay. Yeah. What a great program. Because, I mean, the business side is probably the hardest part for most artists, I would think.
Well, it's what they don't teach you at school for the most part.
Wow.
It's like they teach you how to make the art and stuff, but not really teach you how to get a job making the art and stuff.
Oh, that's so silly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's also the age-old thing of, starving artists, where a lot of our artists over the years have become almost afraid to ask for what they're worth. And the program was great, and putting a number on what you do and creating, the ability to speak about your work, your life's work. So it was a wonderful program.
Is that an issue with a lot of artists? Is that they undersell their stuff?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, wow. I never knew that was a thing. Because I know artists are so. I mean, a lot of times they're so like it's their piece, it's their baby. I would imagine they'd want to put a decent price on it.
Well, it's funny. Like if I could use myself as an example, like when I first started doing this was probably about a year or two before that, like 2016, 2017. Actually, Quentin just posted a picture of me from like I think it was the year that we met. In 2017, I had less gray hair and more hair, and we were sitting across the street from each other during the Fringe Festival on 2nd Street. And what was I going to say about that? What were we talking about? I just lost the whole thing.
Being able to put a price
Oh
on
yeah.
work.
So back then, I had a 5x7 painting that I did. It was like Star Wars characters and stuff, and I was selling them for like $10 a piece because like. Who's gonna like my work and stuff like that. And like now it's like I sell the same piece at $40 a piece because it's like now I kind of know the value of what I'm putting out there. I try not to charge. I don't charge a lot for something that doesn't come directly from me. So I usually bring those prices down because I feel weird about doing like fan art and stuff like that.
Okay.
Making money off of that. So, but yeah, to see what that jump is like, the product hasn't changed really as much as just I asked for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything similar like that in the dance world where dancers don't know their worth or?
So the dance world is quite an interesting monster. It's absolutely beautiful, but from the get-go, we're taught to be humble.
Oh, it's like martial arts. Interesting.
Yeah. And oftentimes, I remember, growing up through this career, I've been at, dancing professionally for a really long time. You were always told girls are a dime a dozen. So you were always fighting for position or fighting for the jobs, and you often work for free. Like, oh, I'm doing it for the exposure.
Right.
I'm doing it for class. Oh, I won't get a chance to perform if I don't take this opportunity. So we would often not ask for what we're worth when, in the grand scheme of things, your career is maybe going to last 10, 15 years if you're lucky. I've been extremely fortunate myself, but ballet careers don't last long. So being able to put a number on, this is my time, this is my travel, this is my resources, this is my knowledge that I personally have collected over these years, and demanding it. A beautiful thing is that musicians tend to not have this problem as much. I think they're the better paid people within performing arts, because they ask for their worth, and without them, the show does not go on. Yeah. So it's getting to the point like, yes, I know I can be replaced, but what I bring to the table is uniquely from me. So it's figuring that out and being able to stand for that in good ways.
Oh.
And being okay if somebody's not interested in like the dollar amount that your value, what you value yourself at or value your work at, you got to be okay with being like, well, this isn't the opportunity. It's okay.
Is that another issue with dancers and I would say artists as well, that the feeling of insecurity, that they're not good enough, or is that a?
It is absolutely a thing because we are chasing the impossible perfection. Perfection does not exist, but we are constantly trying to strive for that. So we have a habit of self-sabotaging on that aspect. But when it gets over to the business end of things and talking numbers, it's so personal to us that we tend to overlap those, and being able to separate the business from the personal is a really big thing. I think as you get into the career further, that ability starts to happen. Luckily, younger dancers now know I'm going to negotiate for this. I can't eat air. Yeah. So I have to be paid for something. And you have to seek out those opportunities. Like Don said, there's going to be people that will tell you no. There's going to be people willing to negotiate with you. And you have to say, well, what is my absolute bottom line? And some opportunities just have to pass, and you move on to something else.
This really reminds me of my early days in wrestling, just, getting beat up for such little money. And I'm wondering, because there were times where I drove far out, and guaranteed this kind of money, and then all of a sudden I wrestle my match, go to the back, and the booker's like, we didn't draw enough, so we don't have enough to pay you. Is that a thing in dance as well?
It is. It very much is. Dance, for the most part, is very underfunded. So a lot of smaller companies rely on the ticket sales in order to pay their people, just because they're trying to build capital to make more action, like have more activities for their business. And that way it starts to build up financially. And there's times where they'll be like, well, I don't have it now, but I will get it to you. And you have to pray that they stick to their word. And you just got to keep hounding them.
Yeah.
There's actually, right now, I'm still waiting on a final payment for choreography that was due to me several weeks ago.
Choreography?
Yeah.
Wow. So you choreographed someone else's performance? I don't know what to call it.
I had choreographed for their performance, and in my contract it was staggered pay, and I'm still waiting on one of those checks. And
Wow.
I have to be the bad guy and
I know. Don't you hate doing that?
be a pain in the butt and constantly text and call and show up at your door, but this is my livelihood. So.
And that's another thing too, is people who are business set minded, they have no problem. Like, I'm getting my money. To the people who just, want to perform and just get paid for their work, they're probably a little more like, oh, I hate doing this. I got to ask. But, it's an uncomfortable thing.
It is, especially when you enjoyed the work, you enjoyed the location and what you were doing. It's hard to be like, well, you guys aren't holding up your end of the bargain here. I'm happy to come back and work with you, but this has to be settled. We have to mesh well here.
Yeah. You're a teacher. Is that something that you teach your students as well? Do you teach them about the business side?
Unfortunately, with most of my students, they're either much younger or the structure within the times. Like I'm set between a certain amount of time to teach them the technique. So I try to feed in a little bit of my life lessons into that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those will go like, know your worth, take up space. And it's building them as an individual so they know that they are worthy of respect, that they are permitted to take up this space and to go forward and to support themselves. I do teach them still, like, there is etiquette here. There is beauty in being humble, but humble has a limit. So it's, teaching my life lessons to them within the curriculum.
So I definitely, we got to dive deep into your story because it's a heck of a story. But first, a question. How old do you teach?
Well, this past year, I finally had to put my foot down and say I don't teach anybody under the age of 8. 8 and under right now is a really unique generation.
I'm asking about this for my 5-year-old daughter, so yes, go on.
There are wonderful teachers that are better equipped to meet younger students' needs. At this stage in my career, I'm just not that individual.
It's a lot more behavior stuff.
And... So I think the youngest student I'm teaching at this time is 10, and then with my Hope Dances program, I'll teach as old as they get.
Yeah.
So, and it's a lot of fun.
And I know you love performing. Do you love teaching?
I do love teaching. Performing is my heart and soul. It is literally what sets me on fire. But teaching is so beautiful just because I get to see those light bulb moments and I get to build the next generation. Whether they dance or not, I hope that they take something from our time together that it changes their life or it sets them on a much better course. Historically, ballet teachers were notorious for tearing dancers down, and that stops with me. So it's
is that still the norm?
No, it's getting a lot better.
Okay.
It is getting much better.
We've all seen movies and videos where they are just being treated like they're in a boot camp or something.
It is improving. There's still a lot of structure, a lot of discipline, and there is a high expectation of our students, but it is doing it with understanding and kindness. We're not coddling them. We're still helping them to develop grit, because this career, the performing arts, you need grit to survive. You're constantly getting rejection after rejection. So you have to keep getting a lot of no's until you get that yes. So it's, instead of saying that was bad, like we would have heard in the past, now it's, okay, well, let's try it this way.
Yeah.
And it's structuring the class that will better suit them instead of tearing them down.
Awesome. And you kind of answered this question with that, but final question about my little lady, Sora. I see what my boys are getting through doing martial arts and other things like soccer. I'm so far removed from the dance world. Like, what do you see a girl who is 6 years old, she'll probably be 6, and puts her heart into it? Like, what can she get from a dance program?
So at 6 years old, they're not getting definite technique yet, just because developmental age and physical development, it's not safe for them to do much more than that. They don't have the developmental age. What is the word I'm looking for? They don't have that development mentally to take on such complex topics, and their skeletons just aren't ready for that kind of manipulation. You'll see videos of children being put into crazy stretches and asked to do extreme things. Their skeletons can't take that. It's really unhealthy for them. There's so much scientific study for that. For I would say for ages 7 and under, it is more about like gross motor skills. It's about learning how to count and move to music. Just being able to sustain that, or learning the dynamics. This is up, this is down, this is bent, left, right, moving throughout the room, knowing where you are in space. So that helps them to develop proprioception. It's working alongside of their peers, taking turns. So like you'll see it in class. They have to raise their hand to be to speak, or they have to do certain things at a certain time. It's giving them all that, but within a creative sphere, and letting them get comfortable with moving in all these dynamic ways that it still sparks their imagination. It's still magic.
Yeah.
Like we have, like even as they get older, we have to maintain that joy. So it's that for 7 and under.
And for 7 and under, are we doing ballet? We doing tap, hip hop? What are we doing?
So they can start to be introduced to all of those things, and you'll see some locations will offer ballet to 2-year-olds. Well, it's. I'm going to go ahead and stand on my soapbox here. That's just a no. That's a no for me.
I think it's just for the outfit.
Everybody wants a tutu, I swear. But it should you're not worried about turning out the legs where the toes face outward, because that's too much on the hips. Like they can work in parallel. It's okay. I can now move cross laterally. Most kids don't know how to skip until they're about 5 or 6. That's when skipping really starts to come into effect, because that's how their brain development works. And then some kids are just naturally attuned to it. So great. Foster that within a healthy manner for their physical development.
Don, can you skip?
Oh, I can skip.
You can? You
Yeah.
ever see those videos of the old guys who forget how to skip?
I'm a great skipper.
And I bet you look great in a tutu as well.
You have no idea.
You should be the next life model for that.
Ow!
I've thought if somebody falls through, I'm the next in line.
No doubt. So where do we get started on this amazing journey of the life of Jennifer Gordon?
Well, how did you get involved with dance to begin with? Like, how young were you? Like, what got you into your first set of ballet shoes?
Oh, goodness. Well, you would consider me a late starter. I didn't start until I was 7. For a lot of professional dancers, they start around 3 or 4. I used to dance all over my house and annoy the ever-living heck out of my mother. And it came down to the point she says, Jennifer, if I put you in dance classes, are you going to stop dancing around the house? Sure, Ma. She created a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Day one, I absolutely loved moving. I loved the structure. And I had a really strict teacher, this lovely German teacher. Her name was Ilse Traub-Dinshaw. And she was brilliant. Oh, she was so mean. But she was nice mean. If that makes
High
sense.
expectations.
That's it. And there was no nonsense, but she wasn't she didn't tear you down. Mm. And then a year later, I had auditioned for a Nutcracker, and I got in. Holy crap! And I go through all the rehearsals, August through September through October, and in November, the professional dancers joined us for rehearsals. So here I am, 8 years old at the time. And I'm seeing all these professionals from all over the world come in. They speak all different languages, and they speak this one same language of dance. And they came in, and they sweat. They bled. They cursed a lot. They failed. They made mistakes. They got back up and did it again. And seeing them work is what made me fall in love with it. So at 8 years old, I looked at my mom and said, that's what I'm going to do. I fell in love with their work. Most people are like, oh, they're so pretty.
Yeah.
I don't do fluffy. So watching the grit of it all, watching the messiness of it all was so cool. That set me on fire. Like, you can actually do this as a job.
That's badass. That's a badass way to get into dancing. Very cool.
Do you think it was getting into like ballet that made you like ballet being your first sort of introduction to dance? Was that the thing that made you fall so head over heels in love with ballet, or do you think if you started with like tap or jazz, you would be more inclined to go that way?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I really don't. There was something so beautiful about the discipline and the structure of it. Like, there's a wonderful quote I love. It's learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. And I live by that. Like, I love getting down to the nitty gritty of technique. And there's such a beautiful thing about the start of class where the rest of the world is gone. Like, the door closes, the music starts, and your first thing is plie. You bend, and it's connecting your breath with your body, and all of a sudden you can't worry about what's going on outside the door. With a lot of the other styles, it's upbeat music, and it's getting your heart rate going, and there's this beautiful slow build throughout a ballet class that you do all the harder stuff at the very end, all those big jumps and fast moves, and it's that slow progression that's like, it sits with me really nicely. And I am an individual that's always been so deeply connected to music, even before I started dancing, that it's just so nice to be able to really find those nuances in movement and music and like just marry them together in that.
Now, here's a question. I don't want to like sort of break the rhythm of development here, but we talked a lot about teaching and a little bit about dancing, but that area in between of choreography, like when you're, especially at this sort of level around here, you're faced with a very mixed group of dancers and not dancers. So how do you, I don't want to say cope, because sometimes it's a bit of a coping thing, but how do you position your choreography to make non-dancers look good?
So I have to say, I'm going to pat myself on the back and sound a little proud right now. I think that's one of my fortes. I literally just got a message today from one of my former musical theater students at Penn Saucon. He's teaching up, I think, New Brunswick, and he's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. Like, was just like talking about the choreography we had done then. And it was 7 years ago, I started with Penn Saucon High School, and I'd go in, and none of the students had dance training. But the director says, I want you to choreograph a show that you want to dance. I'm like, are you sure? It's Pippin. We're talking Fosse here. That's a lot. And she's absolutely, I don't want to see a single box step on the stage. I'm like, you're my girl. And it was getting in there with them, and I go through life with high expectations and no timeline. So I go in, I have a general plan. It's all written out. All my choreography's there, spacing, everything. And I see what works. And I let them rise to the challenge. But I'm not afraid to deliver things in as many ways as possible till somebody's like, oh, okay. Because here I am at my level up of, annuals. I'm like, I've reached, quite an age here. I'm still having those light bulb moments because I'm still telling myself things in different ways. I'm like, oh, that's how that works. Great. And it's doing it in that manner. And it's also being honest that when you get to a point and something just isn't working, I am not so married to what I've created that it's not adjustable. Right. Everything has a modification. Anything can be modified to meet the people in front of you. And that's just it. They're people first. So if I meet them as people first and I'm building them to this, like both personally and in the choreography, somewhere within the process, we meet this lovely little harmonious spot and it works. And it's keeping, like I said, keeping fun in it because we laugh a lot in my rehearsals. But anybody is capable of doing it. It's just finding the way to make it work for them. Like I've worked with brides and grooms with their first dance, and they'll come in and the bride will be like, oh, I've taken dance class, and the groom's like, I played hockey. I'm like, I can talk hockey. Let's talk hockey. So you know how you glide forward with that foot? That's exactly how I want you to take that step forward. So I don't want you to step with your heel. I want you to step flat into that as if you're really going to take off on the ice. And it works. It's just finding a mutual language.
I've always wondered, actually, for many years, watching shows like AGT and like So You Think You Can Dance. Lisa, my wife, loves those shows. And I'm always like, how do they come up with this? Like, what is that process like? And especially if there's like multiple people, there's like 10 people on the stage. Like, what kind of thought, what goes into that?
It's really, it's a very individual approach. So each choreographer does things in a unique way. And sometimes the idea can come from something as simple as a word or a painting. I had, like, in the past few years, I had choreographed a piece because I fell in love with the word petrichor, which is the smell of the earth after the rain. And it's a piece I still want to develop. They're like, oh, I want to do this. Or our piece Impulsive. I created it after looking at a painting in my neurologist's office of nerves. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. It was a really pretty painting. So it can be as easy as that. And then it's finding the right music. And then even if it's, I heard the song, I want to make something to it. Is there a story? Is there not a story? Sometimes the story doesn't come until much later. My most recent piece I had choreographed for my company was Quintet. And I loved the music. And I loved the music for years and just didn't find the right setting. And I was in a really dark place personally. I had just lost my dad. There was a lot of turmoil still going on with my family. My brother had been diagnosed with cancer. I had an emergency surgery. I was diagnosed with cancer. And there was all these things going on. And I said, guys, I apologize. I'm not giving you the best of me for this work, but we're just going to sit it and see what happens. And the story came at the very last rehearsal. I'm like, oh, that's what this means. So sometimes you just have to work through it. And I do what the music tells me to do.
Do all of the pieces you create, do they all tell a story, or just some of them look awesome?
So they all have a piece of me embedded into them. They are all a part of my personal story, my journey through life, and all of the chaos that it has been. Some of it's obvious, and some of it's just hidden. They exist within there, and they're for me. If I do anything significant to downstage right, which would be the right side of, if I'm the performer, I'm looking at the audience, it is my right closest to the audience. If I do anything to that, it's in honor of my mom. Because my mom is a seamstress. It was her sewing that paid for my classes growing up. So during my performances, I could never find her. The only time I was guaranteed to see my mom was when I was on stage. She was in that wing. She was backstage right there, always looking. So I always, if it's something significant, it's always to mom.
Wow. Wow. I wish this was a visual thing we're doing now, because I would love to like see one of your pieces and be able to break it down. Because sometimes I'm watching these dances and my knucklehead is just like, how is this? What does this mean? This means something? I just don't get it. I believe you 100%. I'm sure it's amazing, but I just wish I could get it. I guess maybe we'll save that for another day. Hey, can we shift real quick?
Sure.
First of all, if I'm doing the timeline right in my head, did you have cancer recently?
Yes. I had I had a surgery in June. A week and a half later, they thought I had appendicitis. And they're like, but it's not that bad. And I go through, end of June, and then I finally see like a surgeon. I'm like, you might want to get this taken out. It's causing me problems. So they're like, yeah, October 14th, we'll take it out. And October 1st came around, and I was in so much pain. Like, it was unbearable.
Like a muscle soreness thing? Or
it felt like a kidney stone, but worse.
Ah.
And I go into the emergency room. They're like, yeah, you need to have this out like right now. So they thought it was appendicitis. And a week later, I'm just, doing my thing. And, I get a notification. I have a new result on my chart because they send you your results now. I absolutely love the medical field. And I'm looking through the pathology of my appendix. So anytime you have something removed, they always do pathology. It's just practice. And I'm reading through, I'm like, I know what this means. Oh my God, I know what this means.
You diagnosed yourself?
I died. I'm like, I did.
Holy cow.
And I called my husband and I said, I know, I have cancer. They took out cancer. And he's like, no. I said, I'm telling you right now, they're talking about mitosis rates right here. They're talking about what the margins are. They're talking about the size. They say neuroendocrine on there. I'm like, this is cancer.
Hold on. No one came to you and told you this.
They never called me about my results.
Patient figured out through that's
the pathology, and like the pathology didn't even say cancer, it just says neuroendocrine
how do
tumor.
you even know?
Like, just looking, because they're talking about the mitosis rates, they're talking about the margins of this, they're talking about what areas it's in. I'm like, I know what this is. I've been looking at so many studies. My brother had been diagnosed with cancer mid-August. So I know because I helped handle all the medical stuff there. I know from looking at all of his stuff and then looking at this and my own medical journey, which has been
I do want to talk about that
a little
too.
dumpster fire.
Yeah.
I knew what it meant. So the very next day, I called my family doctor, set up an appointment that day. I said, "Am I reading this right?" He goes, "Yep, you sure are."
Wow.
However, it was a little. I had seen the surgeon. He goes, "Yeah, we thought it was appendicitis, but when we went in, like there was no signs of appendicitis." I'm like, "Oh, okay. You could have told me that when I woke up from surgery."
Oh my God.
Yeah, like they talked to my husband. Everything looked great. It was a little discolored. She can go home now.
Wow.
Although he was a great surgeon, he did a great job. He was very kind.
Just not informative.
No, not very informative. So I had to go through all the additional testing and everything else, and I'm really happy to say that it was just an isolated tumor. Apparently, it first started showing signs of being there in 2017. CAT scans from 2017 showed changes in my appendix, and nobody said a damn thing.
Oh,
but it was so slow growing that I have probably had that tumor or that cancer since I was 20. That's how slow it was growing. If it were 2 millimeters larger, I would have had to have half of my large intestines removed, gone through chemo and radiation. And luckily, they're like, no.
You had none. You have to do any of it.
None.
You mean the surgery that you got removed it?
They removed it. It was gone. Wow. So it was just an isolated little cancerous tumor. And it had caused so much havoc in my body, the way it was responding. Like my body was responding to this.
Wouldn't they have seen that when they took it out?
You'd think it was less than a centimeter. It was inside.
Okay.
Or I don't know if he did see it. He just didn't say anything. It was on the appendix. It was on another part that connects to your small intestine called the mesoappendix, and it was in my small intestine. So they're like, it's sitting right there, and it's like making a couple of nerves angry, so that's why your hip hurts. And I'm like, really? I thought it was because I was getting old and I'm a ballet dancer. So look, I can say my hip is great now. I remember I had seen Don for my company's show, and I had told him he was helping me lay out the dance floor. I said, I just want to let you know, I found out I have cancer, and this is literally the second week of October. I had just had the surgery a week and a half beforehand, and it was until December 17th that I got the all clear. Dude, you're all clear. Wow. So I literally looked at my husband on December 17th. I was like, I just want to stay home for the holidays and just decompress because this year has been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
So yeah, let's dive into that dumpster fire, huh?
You sure you want to go there?
I do, because I think it's really inspirational. I mean, the cancer is compared to everything else, it's just another thing. I mean, you're a real badass. What you do physically and mentally with the teaching and everything. And after everything you've been through, I mean, could we start at the beginning? What you've been through, if you don't mind?
No, I don't mind at all.
Because I think, there's a lot of people out there who make excuses, and you're a good reason not to make excuses. If you can get up and do what you do, then they probably can too. I have
to attribute that to the very beginning of my story, because we never made an excuse of it. Of anything that was going on with me, we never gave it any kind of weight. It didn't have any matter of importance. It was just something that was there. So when I was born with microphthalmia and a cataract in my right eye. So the eye itself is completely small, smaller than the other one. And I had a cataract. So it looked like I had a snowflake in my eye when I was born. In 1992. I was the first cataract surgery on a newborn at Children's Hospital.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I was the first surgery there. Ironically, my best friend had double cataract surgery as a newborn 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we run in packs.
Yeah.
But that left me legally blind in my right eye. So I dealt with that, and so that was the way of it. Everything was done as normal as possible. I had some other issues. I had what was called windswept shins. So from the knees down, my shins and feet were turned to the right. So I had to wear those crazy shoes with the bar on the bottom.
Whoa.
Imagine trying to put me as a kid in the shopping cart.
Oh, a little
So
Tetris.
I have to make a joke out of everything. That's the way I stay sane.
Yeah. It's a good strategy.
Yeah. So I did everything all the other kids do except for sports because I couldn't risk getting hit in the head with something and losing the left eye.
Sure.
And then when I was 7, my brother had dislocated his shoulder in a soccer game. And at the time, it was a very unheard of condition, but this doctor somehow knew about it. Goes, I think he might have Ehlers-Danlos. And we're like, They're like, we want you to go back to Children's Hospital and have all of the kids evaluated. So we're like, okay. So we go to Children's Hospital and they have us doing all kinds of like parlor tricks, bending our thumbs and seeing how bendy, stretchy we were. And sure shooting, we got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos hypermobility type. So Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue disorder that affects the collagen in your body. There's, I think, 13 classifications now, some that are strictly with the heart, some with the eyes, some with the spine. They have all variations. For me, I have, all 4 of us kids have it. It is like a 50-50 chance. Both of my children have it because my husband.
Really?
Yeah. It's really not that uncommon. It's pretty common. It's just now more doctors know about it.
Because I've never even. Have you heard of it before?
Only from Jen.
Yeah, I've never.
So it's like a lot of. It's just now that the majority of doctors have heard about it because they get a little week-long study in it. But yeah, we all dislocate. We all did everything else. I was a scrawny little low muscle tone kid that, like, you know, I used to get made fun of, like, oh, you've got an eating disorder. I'm like, have you seen me eat? Mm-hmm. Like, I love food. But it caused low muscle tone, so my joints would slip all over the place, and it was still
what?
Yeah,
your joints would slip.
I'm like dislocating my fingers.
She's doing some stuff with her fingers, giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, my whole body will dislocate like that.
Does that help with dancing sometimes?
It does. It does. Most dancers have this. It helps with the range of motion and everything else, but you do have to build a lot of strength around your joints. But for me, it affects all of my body. So it's not just like, hey, I'm bendy. It affects my skin, my eyes, my heart, my digestive system, my circulation. Everything's affected by it. So yeah, we just kept going on as normal. I know, I keep going.
Are you in pain living with this?
Yes. I live in a constant state of pain. Some days are better than others. And it's hard to determine what is Ehlers-Danlos pain and what is an actual injury or a problem. Because one day you can literally be like, oh my gosh, I think like there's something seriously wrong with my knee. Oh my gosh, did I hurt my knee? And you don't read into it. And sometimes you go a little too long with pain, like that pain. And once you get to that point and you're like, no, this is a real injury. So a lot of research and a lot of study on my end with kinesiology and sports injuries and stuff like that. That way I know what to look for and how to best advocate for myself. But yeah, everything was done as normal. That's the only issues I really had up until my 20s.
Did your siblings handle it as positively as you did?
I'm very different from my siblings. They're kind of, I hate to say it like this, they're the non-artistic side, I hate the word pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
It's not meant to be an insult, but dancers are so unique because we're so in tune with our body. Like I can feel the adjustments in my body throughout the day. This is tight. This is cold. This is hot. I feel all of it. I'm so in tune with what's going on. And that's been really beneficial with all the other stuff I've had, that to advocate for myself and know this is not right, which led up to a big one. We'll talk about in a minute. But they're like, whatever. I just go through life. Like my brothers are your typical, I'm a dude. I'm going to go do my job. I'm going to cut down trees. And they're great. They really are. I'm not trying to make them sound like meatheads or anything. But they push past it. This is just part of the thing. Oh, I don't know why this keeps doing that. Well, you have Ehlers-Danlos. I hate to tell you. So yeah, like it's what we do. There is a good amount of pain that deals with it, and just you go with the flow.
Yeah.
You learn what makes it worse, what makes it better, and how to go through. But you know, if you make yourself a victim, you're not going to get anywhere. What kind of life is that?
Yeah.
It's no.
Yeah.
I'm not about that life. I want more out of what's happening, and if it means I have to deal with a couple of pains in the butt, well, there you go. My hips are right there.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, like, and then going back to that timeline, 26, 25, I was diagnosed with 3 valve prolapses in my heart. Which
A valve prolapse?
Yeah, so the valves in my heart like don't move correctly, or they won't close like correctly. So some of the blood will go backward every so often. Which it's not for me. Mine are not as bad as other people. Some people need valve replacements. I'm doing okay so far. Had my first child at 27.
You didn't do anything about the heart? You just
No, I get checked every year. I see my cardiologist.
Does it affect your cardio or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the Ehlers-Danlos, if I do not stay physically active every day, the old saying was like, one day out, 2 in the hole. So like one day out of exercising, you lose 2 days of like your muscle memory or your muscle mass or something like that. For me, if I take a day off, it's like 4 days. So I deteriorate quickly. So if I don't keep up on my cardio health, like my cardiac health, I just the other day, because I had taken some time off over the holiday, my beats per minute was 186.
Ooh.
While being active. I'm like, I shouldn't be at this at my level.
That's fast.
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much. I'm like, okay, I have to get back into going through all this cardio stuff. But I'm aware of it, and I can tell when it's getting there. So I'm like, okay, I can back off now. Like, just back off a little bit, take some breaths, drink some water.
I don't know if I've said this yet. Have I mentioned you are a badass? My goodness.
I don't know if I'm a badass.
Well, you are, but
or persistent.
well, those go hand in hand together.
They do. They absolutely do. But yeah, like dance really helps to keep me on top of all of those things, and it was my knowledge of my body through dance that actually helped me uncover my brain condition. So it's actually 10 years ago this February I had brain surgery.
Oh, just brain surgery.
Yeah, just brain surgery. That's
what happened there?
I'm a genetic cesspool. If like, you can call me potluck. So whatever was left over in the gene pool from my parents, it came to me.
Oh, you got hooked up.
I did. I got the best of both worlds, man. I'm a mess. Apparently I was born with this, but I was literally losing my mind. My brain was escaping my skull from about 10 millimeters. It was coming out of the bottom of my skull.
Wow.
It started to block off spinal fluid from 3 areas of my brain. So my brain was drying out. It's a condition called Chiari malformation.
And how's that does the brain separating from itself, or the full brain is just starting to move down?
The full brain is just starting to move down. So it's the cerebellar tonsils. So you have the upper part of your brain, you have that little part in the back, and that goes into your brainstem. Well, it's that little piece before it becomes brainstem, and it was you have that little magniform, which is the hole in the base of your skull, and it was coming out, and it was compressing into my brainstem and blocking spinal fluid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Sorry, I'll get a little closer. So I had my first kid I was 27 or 28, and about a year later, I started to get migraines. I'm like, okay, whatever, it's fine. And then 2011, 2010 my migraine started. 2011 we had the earthquake, and the earthquake stopped, but it didn't. I was still in the earthquake.
Whoa.
It was just enough to throw off my nervous system to make me feel like I had that side to side shaking, like a shearing feeling. I'm like, oh my, are we still in an earthquake? And my husband's like, are you nuts? No, like everything's fine. So I go to a neurologist, and
still feeling that way even when you go?
Still feeling that, still getting migraines and stuff like that. So he goes, I want to do an MRI. You know, they did all the ear studies to test for vertigo and all this other thing. It's not that, but I want to test. I'm going to do an MRI and sure shoot. And he's like, yeah, you have Chiari malformation. I want to send you over to the neurosurgeon so they can evaluate you better. So I go to a neurosurgeon. They're like, you know, it's really not that bad right now. Your symptoms are actually pretty good. So at this time, we're only going to manage your symptoms. So I'm like, oh, okay. So they gave me one medication. My body did not like it. So I said, well, I'm just going to keep going, whatever. And it would maybe be that I would get 2 migraines a month, right? Still horrible, but it was manageable. I could deal with it. And I avoided anything that moved that I was not in control of. So like escalators and elevators and me being a passenger in a car where they were not fun.
Whoa,
yeah.
not even being a passenger in a car.
Because I couldn't control the movement. I couldn't anticipate what the movement was going to be. And then it started to be that I was maybe having 2 days without a migraine for like 3-4 months. And so the migraines were getting more intense and they were starting to affect my vision. And then it was starting to affect my speech and my memory and even my ability to hold on to things with my hand. I kept dropping things and I didn't realize how bad I was actually getting. That it was 2013, so within 2 years, I want to say it was 2013.
Did the people around you pick up on anything?
A little bit. I've gotten really good at masking symptoms over the years just because of everything I've dealt with. Like I'm a performer by trade, so I can mask a lot of those
But if you're
things.
forgetting things all the time, dropping it.
I remember saying to one of the studio owners, I said, I know there's something wrong. I'm not giving these kids what they need. I know I'm not working to my ability, but I don't know what it is. There is something wrong. Like I remember telling her that. So I started to rehearse for a Christmas show. And I'm waltzing around the room with my partner. He and I had performed together many, many times. We knew how to anticipate each other's movements. I had full trust in him. And all of a sudden, out.
You went out.
I went out. He goes, Jen, you fell so quick, I couldn't even catch you.
Do you remember the events leading up to that?
I remember dancing and I remember waking up.
Okay.
That's it. I remember just going around the room. My heart rate was fine. Everything, was peak shape. And I blacked out and I woke up and they're standing over me. I'm like, hey. They're like, Jen, you blacked out. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get home and I tell my husband what happened. He goes, okay, well, let's go to the emergency room, make sure there's nothing going on. And they wanted to keep me. I'm like, I'm not staying. But I had proceeded to do some more research. I'm like, all right, maybe it's time to go back and see the surgeon. So I'm like, well, you know what? If this is the case and if this is what I have and I want to keep dancing, I want to see somebody good. I've had enough times where doctors have gaslit me throughout my entire life because with Ehlers-Danlos, most of them just think you're chasing pills, and you're like, no, I really don't. I don't want pain medication. I just want to function. So a lot of people will blow you off. So I'm like, oh, let me go to the best. So I got an appointment with the number 3 top doctor in the country for Chiari malformation out of Johns Hopkins Hospital. Somebody I know he had performed surgery on, and they are a dancer. So I'm like, okay, he knows dancers. He's good at what he does. Let me go to him. So we go in, my husband and I go to this appointment. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to go by myself just in case they tell me I need surgery. And this person, this individual had the audacity to tell me, you don't have Chiari malformation. It's all in your head. Go find a magic pill because I can't help you. And only talk to my husband after that. I turned to my husband. I said, you need to get me out of here now or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So we walked out of there and I cried all the way back home from Baltimore, back to here in southern New Jersey. And I just could not believe that it happened to me. Go find a magic pill. Like, it's all in your head. No, it's falling out of my head, buddy. So the original neurologist I had seen had moved to Manhattan, and I trusted him. He was a great doctor. So I went and saw him up in Manhattan, and he had ordered an additional test, which was a CSF flow study. It checks how the fluid moves around your brain. And he found that my brain was drying out in a couple of areas. He's like, yeah, it's blocked in these areas. It's not getting flow. You need to see a surgeon. So he did some more research, and I found one, Dr. Michelle Smith. She was at University of Penn at the time. And got on, one of those Facebook groups, and it was an active duty soldier who had the condition, and she performed surgery on him, and he went back to active duty. So I'm like, well, I know like Army grade is not always the best thing, but if he can go back to active duty with this, I think I'll be good. So I go and I see her, and she's like, I don't like to do the surgery if I can avoid it because it's not a cure. And there's no guarantee you're going to come out better. You could come out worse. She goes, but you need this surgery. I'm like, okay. So she goes, go home, figure some things out, give me a call. I'm like, okay. So I go home, and a week goes by, and she called me. And she goes, you didn't call. I said, oh, well, it's January. And actually, it was like literally 10 years ago, like this week, because I saw the memories on my Facebook. Anyway, I wanted to wait until June because, my daughter will be out of school. She's in kindergarten, or was she kindergarten or first grade? I forgot. She'll be done school by then. And then all of my classes for my teaching will be done. I'll have the entire summer to heal. She goes, sweetheart, you're not going to live that long. I said, excuse me? She goes, your brain is dying. You are dying. You need to have this surgery. I'm like, oh, okay. So lots of planning. And then a month later, it was February 27th, and had the surgery. And surgery went great.
Does this involve cutting off the dry pieces, or?
I'm part cow.
Oh, you got cow brain?
I have cow brain. So actually, I have cow heart on my brain. They permanently remove a section of the skull, so they expand the opening of your skull. They shave off a part of your C1 vertebrae, so that way it's not pressing on it. They're creating more space for my big brain because, it's a smart SMRT man. And they expand the lining of your brain. So to expand the lining of my brain, they used bovine pericardium, which is cow heart. So it was a very moving experience.
Oh, nice. That is
was
utterly fantastic.
Yes, all the jokes.
Sorry, I had to.
No.
She started it.
Yep. Auditions are cattle call now.
We could do this all day, brother.
It never ends.
So, why do they have to do that? Why do they have to put these parts on?
So, it would cause far too much. I mean, essentially, they would have to do a lobotomy instead. And it's better to not disturb the actual structure of the brain, especially so close to the brainstem. It could have killed me. So they're like, let's just expand this. Let's add an addition, make the house bigger. And that's generally the more accepted thing to do. So that's what they had done. And I woke up and I couldn't tell the time. I remember waking up and across from my bed in the recovery room, there's a clock. And I'm like, I know what those numbers are, but that makes no sense.
Whoa.
No sense at all. So, I'm going through, and about 8 days later, I was like a little extra pain and my head felt heavy and just my neck was hurting. I'm like, I feel like I'm going backward. And then,
were you feeling the same thing with the clock everywhere? Like I don't quite comprehend things? Or
So I have a funny saying to go with that now is that I don't math. I count to 8 for a living and I start at 5. Numbers and I no longer get along. I can do general math and I'm pretty good at, my business math and stuff like that, but complex stuff is not my thing.
Huh.
Well, not my thing.
No word problems.
No. And I think that was probably amplified by what was developing at like the 8-day post-op mark. Because by day 10, I couldn't have coherent conversations and I couldn't hold my head up. And I was saying some of the most vile things.
Oh, really?
Vile things. So my husband takes me back to the hospital, to the emergency room. And I'm saying I couldn't control what was coming out of my mouth. He goes, if you don't shut up, I'm going to kill you. And my husband is a gentle giant. I have never seen this man angry. When he said that to me, I went, oh, snap. Like, okay.
What, were you just talking shit? Like just...
I don't know what I was saying. All I know, all he will tell me is it was vile.
Wow.
I'm like, oh gosh. And I pride myself on being a kind person. Or I try to be. And come to find out I had developed chemical meningitis. My brain did not want to go out to pasture. So my brain was swelling in my head and it was causing damage. So I had a couple days stay getting some really hardcore steroid medication. And I couldn't stand for more than 3 seconds anymore.
Just dizzy?
Yeah. It's like they do the test where they have you stand up and hold yourself and close your eyes, and they see how long you can stand up without swaying.
Wasn't happening.
Nope. I couldn't do it with my eyes open, my feet apart, and holding on to things. It was really bad. It affected my immediate short-term memory. My husband's a saint. He's a saint. I would ask him the same question like 15 times in 3 minutes and forget that he asked me. It was like 10-second Tom.
Wow, it's like Alzheimer's or something. Dementia.
That's, it's very similar on the cognition and the deterioration and the physicality. And it took a lot. It was several months of hardcore steroid, and that steroid medication is so painful. It is so painful in the body. Like every time you step down the level from being on a high dose of steroid, your body hurts. Like it almost feels like you get hit by a bus. But like the first week or so, they couldn't figure out how to get through to me because I was talking so fast and I wasn't retaining, and I couldn't get focus on anything. My brain was so scrambled.
Do you remember this?
There kinda. Yeah. There's like glimpses that I see pictures. My husband has a picture of me trying to like put together a puzzle, like just thinking a regular jigsaw puzzle, and I have my head in my hand and tears coming down my face. I'm like crisscross over the top of the table, like sitting on the table trying to figure out this puzzle, and I'm just like I couldn't make any sense of anything. It was like cognition and communication were gone. And I do know that in my body, like internally, my internal dialogue was fine. Like that was fine. I just couldn't communicate anything that I needed. So it pissed me off something fierce. So I'm in the occupational therapy and physical therapy, and they're scratching their heads until they realized my foot was keeping time with music. That was the only thing that was actually like with the music, but my mouth's going like it's rambling on, but my foot kept time. So what they started to do is before they did anything with me physically, they would have me say whatever ballet term I could remember to the beat of the music, because obviously my body remembered music, it remembered how to move, so I needed to tie my speech to that so I could start to slow it down. And then they would have me start to do that with beating my hands to the music with the speech and going there. And then it turned into like stepping sideways down a hall, step together, and tying all of those movements. And that music was really what brought my brain back. The connections in my brain from what music had created and dancing had created really brought me back to life. And finally, several months later, I was finally clear. I'm like, yay! And I was right back to dancing.
Yeah.
Right back to dancing. And it led to something beautiful. It's funny you had said Alzheimer's and dementia, because everything I physically had to go through and mentally had to go through, I created a program for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. It's called Hope Dances. So I go to assisted living locations and I bring a curated playlist for their average age. Yeah. And we go and we have a blast. It is nothing short of magic. Nothing short of magic. It's my baby.
If I could dance, I'd volunteer, but I would just.
If you could absolutely do this, trust me. It's like going to a wedding.
Can my kids come?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to find a community center where I can do this. It's great for senior citizens. It's great for people with disabilities. And it's beautiful for people with Alzheimer's and dementia under those umbrellas. But it's good for anyone. And it's basic movement patterns. It's music we all know.
Would you message me if you need a volunteer or two?
Absolutely, I will.
I'll be there.
I would love that. I think if anybody needs a good pick-me-up day, you're having a craptacular day, man, come to one of those sessions. You can't leave without a smile.
Yeah, making their day, they make your day.
That's it. And it offers communication. So yeah, there's a physical benefit. Yeah, it's fun. But for people who are having such a hard time verbally communicating, you're able to connect with another person just by your physical movement, or you did something funny and you're having a laugh. Like you're enjoying the space together and you don't have to say anything. And it provides them that bit of humanity and connection that they really need the most. That's what is missing from their lives and from their quality of life. So it's communication.
Wow. Pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
What say you, Don?
I've just been listening. This
Yeah,
whole time.
it's a hell of a story, huh?
Yeah, and I knew a chunk of it, but not all of that. Like so you're a dancer, you're a choreographer, you're a teacher, you're also a producer, and you were talking about your company, Allegory Dance Theater. So how did that come about, and where's that going for you?
So before my brain surgery, I had a company called Reverie, and it was starting out really well and everything, but post surgery, I didn't have the capacity to take care of something larger than me. I really had to drop a lot of those balls and just focus inward so I can get better. And ironically, as I was waking up, before I woke up from surgery, I had this really cool dream. It was pretty epic, and I could smell in the dream, and I could taste what I was drinking in the dream, and it was colorful, and it was movement, and it was a performance. It was a dream of a performance. I'm like, I woke up and I was like, I really want to create that. Oh, I want to create that. I got to create that. So, but time had to go by, and I had to finish healing in many ways before I could go forward. So then I wound up like, I want a company again. I want that community. I want to create. I want to like build something bigger than me. So I started with that piece, and it's called Dancing Past the Dark, and it's been, bits and pieces of it all over the place. It's a wild story. It really is pretty wild, but that really kicked it off, as well as at the same time as producing that. Hope Dances came about, and we have been in operation now for 7 years. We're about to celebrate 3 years as a nonprofit. And we're a super small company, and we need a lot of support still, because we're one of 2 professional companies right here in Southern New Jersey, and it's hard to build a dance company in this area. Like, you've got the Philly area, you have the Atlantic City area, and then there's the Pine Barrens in between. And to get any kind of significant marketing out there is a lot. We are a very diverse culturally diverse area. Sorry, backwards grammar's not my thing. I dance. We are a culturally diverse area, so some of those people are still getting their information from the newspaper, and you would have to print bilingually, and then when you're paying per word, it's a lot. But we have participated in a lot of events. We've done the New Jersey Fringe Festival, Jersey Fringe Festival 2 years when it was in operation. We've done some other series. We've created our own performance series called the Illumination Series, where we invite area choreographers, companies, dancers, not students. This is for the adults. This is people who are creators just like myself that need another platform. And oftentimes, renting a theater is too much money. So I create the umbrella, and I fill it with all these people that it can help. Because, there's great organizations in New Jersey. There are great organizations in Southern New Jersey, but there's still a missing feeling for community. And I know that's something we've talked about several times, and especially within dancers, because a lot of the times you're seen as competition. Yeah. So there's this rivalry that goes on, and I'm not about that. Run your own race. So we created the Illumination Series. It's going on 3 times now. I'm actively looking for a location for year 4. And we're following this past year and the lessons that came out of it, because it was such a difficult year personally. I'm ready to I'm not holding back anymore. It's boss mode time. Flame on. So, along with Illumination 4, I'm looking to get several free public performances throughout the summer months, like some children's performances within that too, like within the park systems down here, and a lot more. We had just done our very first Nutcracker with Pennsauken High School recently, which is really neat. It was an updated story. It was called A Nutcracker Story, and we took it and flipped it on its head. Like, allegory is a story within a story. So we didn't go to the Land of Sweets. We went to this weird kind of library that presented all these wonderful children's stories.
Mhm.
So you did like Little Red Riding Hood. You did Charlotte's Web. Flowers was now Rainbow Fish. So we did the story of Rainbow Fish instead. And like the kids hearing, like, we had 300 third graders come to a show.
Wow.
Yeah. And to hear them they were so quiet. But when, we got to the second act, and it was in that library, and they're seeing all their favorite stories. You're hearing them, it makes it so worth it. Oh my gosh, it makes it worth it. And 75% of the kids had never been to a ballet. 50% of the kids had never been to a performance of anything.
Wow.
So it was their first time seeing anything on stage. I'm like, oh, yes, this is why we do this. That's the mission. It's making it more accessible. The other two, the evening shows that we had performed for were free. Like, if you want to donate something, great, but come see a show. Shows are expensive. It's really hard. There's such an economic barrier for people to come out and see shows. And yes, we do have to make money as companies because it costs a lot to put these on.
Yeah.
We have to do more to get it out there. Luckily, New Jersey's creating initiatives that will help along those lines. But we're still pushing forward with more of that. We are about to kick off regular company classes. So typically we would just hire dancers as we needed them. Now I'm trying to get a regular group so we can consistently keep working together, keep building, keep, generating more pieces. We're looking to kick off a school assembly program.
Okay.
So that way we can get within the school system. So we have a piece called Flying it's a really beautiful piece about, being a kid. There's catching fireflies and jumping rope and flying kites, but it's got the undertone of being bullied. It's my childhood. It's my story of my childhood. Like I said, everything has me put into it because it's me releasing everything. It's, artists put so much of themselves in their work. So along with that performance, there's a lot of different theater games to where you see how your actions impact somebody else. So it's now making it an audience participation in these activities to see how their actions will affect another group of their friends in a very safe and productive and not detrimental or mean way. But it's a great eye opener. I had done it once pre-pandemic, and had brought my own child who was a fourth grader at the time, and they came and they did the performance with us, and the kids seeing another kid up there was great. Them having access to it, it was wonderful. So we're trying to do more things like that, and just growing. We are actively pushing for more members for our board of directors so we can build on there, and actively trying to get grants and just grow. There's so much benefit that the performing arts bring to any area that they're in, and honestly our area is lacking in the dance department, at least. And while there are great offerings for community theater, that's still pretty sparse. So yeah, we're getting there. We're building. We're growing. We got lots of hard plans coming.
If somebody wants to support Allegory Dance Theater, like how would they go about doing so?
So we are very active on our social media pages, so you can go to any of those, Allegory Dance Theater. And that's theater with an R-E at the end because it's the art and not the location. You can go to allegorydancetheater.com. We have, buttons on any of those. If you would like to donate, that would be fantastic. You can also volunteer at any one of the events. As we are looking to expand the Hope Dances program, you are more than welcome to volunteer your time to go in and participate. It's absolutely wonderful to have more than one person in a session because there's going to come a time where somebody wants to share a story with you. And I don't want to miss that opportunity for them to be heard. So while somebody can carry on the physical activity with everybody else, that one person has the lovely moment, that gift of right now to be heard. So we're looking to expand in there. We are trying to find a location as a home for the company that will allow us to expand into our Dance for Dreams initiative that we would love to kick off, which brings dance education to marginalized teens and communities. So we're looking to expand in there. We are always looking for help in any which way. You can donate items. Funding is always wonderful. passing that along, volunteering at our events with concessions, ticket sales, being part of the stage crew. They're all wonderful ways to help.
Awesome.
Let's wrap this baby up. That was
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's amazing content. I mean, your story is very inspiring. You're a badass. Did I mention that? You're a badass? Because, my goodness. Don, we're back, baby.
Yeah.
Feels good to be back.
Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing your story with us. I really want there to be like a part 2 because I have like 100 other questions to ask you. And we should make a part 2 of this.
You down?
I am always down. It's been a wonderful evening. Yes, it's a wonderful evening with both of you. Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be a part of this because you're doing a wonderful thing. You really are.
It's all done. It's all done. Yeah. All right, Jen Gordon, I'm in awe of you. You're fantastic. And I look forward to part 2.
Yeah.
Okay. See you, ladies and gentlemen.